Hello, I am Carlos Ramirez, and I am in Professor Bonnie Garcia's English class. Okay, so question one. What do you know about how to compose posts on social media that you didn't know before taking the class? What was the most difficult thing you experienced while trying to compose, create, design posts for social media? So before conducting my this experience, I seriously underestimated the time and effort it would take to create a post, especially when it is a post on a topic that I or someone is so passionate about. It's some if it's something that you're passionate about, it's not going to feel like work at all. If it's something that you aren't interested in or something that someone else chose for you, you're not going to want to do the assignment, and it's going to make you feel like you're really doing work. In the past, I would deal with this by trying to never take advantage of the time that I do have in class and trying to procrastinate as little as possible in my assignments and my future classes. In this class, I learned this by always having Professor Garcia push us to see our fullest potential. She has never once given up on us and always knew that her students can strive for success. In the beginning of this project, I was more than lost. I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do with my research, and I had no idea what I was passionate about. The professor helped me through it and saw my potential as a college student. And in the future, I now can use this knowledge by not always giving up on things when they get too hard. That is the point. What kind of life would it be if everything was so easy? A life a life not worth living. I also learned that not everyone is going to agree with the topic that you chose, and that is okay. It is always a great idea to meet new people that have conflicting opinions of yours, to not only create a dialogue but learn from each other. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're trying to change their opinion. It just means that you are learning from them as well as they're learning from you. In the past, I was extremely stubborn and ignorant about this. I never wanted to talk to anyone that had a different type of opinion of mine because I always thought that my opinion was right. When it comes to certain things, there is a right and wrong, and there's certain things that you could not respect someone's opinion, like racism, homophobia, etc. In this class, I learned embracing different opinions and understanding why people feel a certain way on a certain topic. You don't necessarily have to change their opinion, but understand why they think the way they think and respecting that. There were certain instances where I did not agree with a stance that a classmate had on a certain topic. After discussing with them, we realized that we were never going to change my opinion and I was never going to change theirs. So we decided to just agree on disagreeing. In the future, I can use this knowledge by not judging someone on their opinion depending on what it is. There are certain instances that is a clear right and wrong, obviously. What do you now know about research, how research works that you didn't know before taking the class? I learned to not always trust the first sites that Google brought to me when I was looking up a certain topic. But I now know that isn't right. That Professor Garcia taught me that using the UTRGV library and Google Scholar are the best sites to conduct research on. In the past, I would deal with this by always trusting whatever sites. That was very wrong and ignorant of me to do so. I never put in much effort with my research. I would always just click the first sites that Google showed me. When doing my research for Instagram, I now knew that using the university's library was the most efficient way of getting my research and not having to worry about the facts being false or not. In the future, I can use this knowledge by either using the UTRGV library site or any university site that I am currently attending, or even using Google Scholar. These are very important ways and useful ways to conduct accurate and correct research. I also learned that being patient is crucial when conducting your research. You might not get your answer today, and you might not get your answer at all. You have to be okay with that. Do not rush things. In the past, I knew that I would always be in a hurry to get work done because of rushing all the time. That affected the performance of my work. In this class, I learned this by realizing that nobody cares about my grade besides me. I have to put in the effort and realize that this is not a race to get work done. As long as you get it done in the end and that you're proud of what the work you created, that's all that matters. When these projects first began, early on in the semester, I would procrastinate like all college kids do, and sometimes I would get lucky and other times it would blow up in my face. In the future, I can use this knowledge by always starting the assignment when it's first given and always checking my sources. Question 3. What do you now know about how to conduct research what do you now know about how to search or talk about your secondary sources that you didn't know before taking my class? What was the most difficult thing that you experienced while searching for secondary sources or communicating your secondary sources? I learned that a lot of older generations, such as baby boomers and Generation X, were very harsh on younger generations like millennials and Gen Z for having technological advantages that they didn't have at the time. In the past, I was always so ignorant of older people. I always thought that they were grumpy, mad at the world, and everyone in it. In this class, I learned this by interviewing a couple baby boomers who either had a lot of great stuff about Gen Z to say and a lot of not so great things. For example, an old man I interviewed said Gen Z was the laziest, dumbest generation by far. He wasn't a part of the generation. He was making an opinion on something he isn't even involved in. In the future, I can use this knowledge by understanding both positions' point of views and understanding why they hold this thought. I learned that only baby boomers were the ones hating. Generation Z had a lot of great things to say about older generations. They loved the simplicity of the past, as well as styles and music. In the past, I knew that younger teens always had an aesthetic feeling towards baby boomers' age period, and the ones after that. In this class, I learned this by interviewing Gen Z kids and seeing how much they admired older generations. I interviewed 2 Gen Zers. They didn't have one bad thing to say about older generations. They loved the time period even though they were never in it. In the future, I can use this knowledge by always understanding that people want what they can't have. People are always going to give an opinion on things that they know nothing about. Question 4. What do you now know about writing a call to action for your audience that you didn't know before taking this class? What was the most difficult thing that you experienced? I always thought that some sort of action was going to be unreachable or just something that a typical teen in a small town could never achieve. And that is the completely wrong mindset to have. We are living in an age where the entire world is displayed at our fingertips. We can do anything with the technological devices that we have the privilege to uphold, whether it be sharing a social media post, joining a march or rally, or educating our community. Anything, whatever you do, is better than just sitting on the couch doing nothing. In the past, I would deal with this by constantly retweeting and reposting about major issues in the world, such as Black Lives Matters, LGBTQ community, and animals that are in need, etc. In this class, I learned this by realizing that we may feel small individually, but as a whole, we are so much more stronger. Reposting may not seem like a lot, but it is always good to spread on an issue that you are so passionate about. I did a lot of call to actions that my classmates insisted on. I chose to speak up on major issues that my peers thought that were important to them. In the future, I can use this knowledge by doing more than just reposting. We need to advocate, protest, donate, etc. if we really want to see change in this country and the world as a whole. I also learned that not everyone uses social media and there must be a way to get your voice out there to them. Educating your community and always fighting for justice in this country is what we need. You get nothing by just sitting there being quiet. In the past, I knew I didn't fight. If it didn't affect me in any way, I didn't care about it. This is the worst mentality to have. Fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. In this class, I learned this by becoming much more passionate and empathetic towards others and realizing that it may not be my problem, but if I don't fight to stop it, I am just as guilty as the person causing it. One way that this class has helped me realize is that I should protest. I had protesting gun violence on a weekend after a major shooting that had occurred. In the future, I can use this knowledge by always stepping up for those who need help and lending a hand in any circumstances. What do you now know about how to compose posts for your audience that you didn't know how to do before my class? I learned that not everyone is going to love your work. No matter what you're doing, there's always going to be someone that hates exactly what you are preaching. My professor taught me that no matter how people feel, never let them affect your work and change your opinion. In the past, I would deal with this by always taking others' opinions of me and my work so personally, and it always had a mental toll on a big toll on my mental well-being, which was really bad. In this class, I learned this by always remembering that peers and professors are judging my work, not me. An example is that I had gotten feedback from both good and bad from my post. It was always the bad feedback that outweighed the good. but for some reason I always paid more attention to the negative feedback, which was never good. I learned that every little thing you do to your post matters. It matters what time of day you post, the hashtags you use, and the overall design of the post. Everything matters. In the past, I didn't know this, and I would post at any time of the day, such as midnight, which was not the smartest choice. And I didn't really think too much about this until I read online about it, and it may affect your likes and how many people see it. Example from this is I had posted on a midnight and I received little to no likes, and then I posted another post in the middle of the day and I received a lot more likes and views. In the future, I can use this knowledge by making sure to post this useful information when you know people are going to be the most active online. What do you now know about working with your peers that you didn't know before class? I always tend to have a difficult time working with others. This thing has absolutely nothing to do with the person I am working with, at least not 100% of the time. I am just extremely introverted, and I usually always perform better alone than in a group, depending on the person. In the past, I like to deal with this by never wanting to work with others. Sometimes that was just for the best, other times it destroyed me in my grade. In this class, I learned that I didn't really work with other people besides doing the breakout rooms, which I really did enjoy. But I was basically left to fend for myself. But something that I can learn for the future is force myself out of my shell where I can allow myself to grow and not be so afraid to ask help from others. I also learned to always keep an open mind when working with others. Not everyone is going to think the exact same way you think. There's nothing wrong with that, quite opposite actually. This allows room for both of you to grow and create a civil conversation about that topic. In the past, I was a bit close-minded to certain things. I never really wanted to have a conversation with people who had opposing opinions. In this class, I learned this by reading others' peer opinions of me, looking at their point of view and seeing why they might have this stance. Giving other people's feedback and really understanding their position definitely helped me. In the future, I can use this knowledge by not shutting down when I see conflicts. In fact, inviting it and allowing to discuss to spark each other so we can both grow and change a few minds. What do you now know about this topic? What do you now know about feedback, how feedback works that you didn't know before class? What was the most difficult thing you experienced while engaging in feedback in class? I learned quite a bit from giving as well as receiving feedback, whether it be positive or negative. Going into this project, I wasn't necessarily the best at receiving criticism. I was always one to think way into things and tend to forget that they are critiquing my work and not myself as a person. It wasn't easy, and it's still not easy, but I'm definitely working on it. In the past, I would deal with this I used to rarely or sometimes not even read the feedback I was given. I know that this isn't the best thing to do, and I'm not allowing myself to grow. In this class, I learned this by accepting feedback, whether it was bad or good from others. When we would share a pose, we were supposed to give two other students feedback. I was always so nervous to read what other people had to say about me. In the future, I can use this knowledge by separating the writer from their work, remembering that feedback, no matter what kind it is always good. I learned to always be honest with my feedback regardless of how the person might feel. I learned to always be careful with the words you choose when you're critiquing the work. In the past, I didn't really take much into consideration. I was always extremely blunt and to the point, which always went to the smartest idea emotionally. In this class, I learned to be very careful with the words you use when commenting on someone else's work that they are proud of. An example from class I would say was to separate the artist from the work. It's not always what you say, but how you say it. What should they expect to learn in this class? You're going to learn that you can make a difference with the touch of a screen. You have so much power and adaptability that you give yourself credit for. What is your biggest worry, concern, fears, or difficulty that they may have? You're going to struggle with writer's block, and that is okay. Probably everyone in this class has to deal with that. There shouldn't be any sort of surprise, but you're going to deal with the procrastination issues, and do not let it overcome you. What are the best ways for them to overcome those concerns, worries, fears? My best advice I can honestly give to my past self is to do the assignment when it is first given. Do not procrastinate because it's going to catch up to you. Thank you.